Hello everybody, my name is Neil and I'm the founder of my website, which is IELTSWheel.com. Today we'll be analyzing one essay taken from Cambridge Book 15. Let's read and analyze this essay prompt. In many countries, paying for things using mobile phone apps is becoming increasingly common. Does this development have more advantages or more disadvantages? Okay, so it's obvious that the examiner wants us to consider both the advantages and disadvantages of this trend, and then our job is to choose whether there are more advantages or disadvantages, or vice versa. Okay, so let's start writing this essay. Okay, first of all, it's very important to write our first paragraph, which is called introduction. Okay, in our first sentence is called background statement, and when you want to write a background statement, you want to write a very general trend that something is true around the world. Okay, so how can we do it? Let's write something like this: the proportion of users who have used cellular phone payment applications has increased significantly over the past several decades. Okay, now as I said, it's very important to write our general trend. Okay, that something is true around the world. So here, the proportion of users, that basically means the number of users who have used cellular phone payment applications. So here we have mobile phone apps. Okay, I have paraphrased this phrase by saying cellular phone payment applications has increased. Why has? Because we're talking about one proportion. Okay, so this number has increased significantly over, which means during the past several decades. As you can see, we are talking about the general trend, right? And here is becoming increasingly common. Okay, and I've just paraphrased this part by writing has increased significantly over the past several decades. All right, next, the next sentence is called thesis. So the question is, does this development have more advantages or more disadvantages? So the examiner wants to know our personal opinion on this. So how can we write this? Okay, something like whilst seeing potential drawbacks, I consider that on balance, this trend is more positive than negative. That's it. Okay, so whilst means while. So the idea is we are going to analyze both of these aspects. So while seeing potential drawbacks, potential here means possible drawbacks. Okay, and I'm going to describe this part in body paragraph 1. Okay, and then I consider that on balance. Why on balance? Because the question is, does this development have more advantages or more disadvantages? Okay, therefore I've written here on balance. This trend is more positive than negative. Okay, so the examiner wants me to answer this question precisely, and I have already answered this question. And I'm going to talk about the second part. This trend is more positive than negative, and I'm going to talk about this in body paragraph 2. So here we go. The examiner clearly understands my position. Okay, the examiner understands my viewpoint, and he also understands what I'm going to write in my essay. Okay, so that's it. We've got only 2 sentences in our introduction. Let's move on. Next, now let's focus on body paragraph 1. Okay, so as I said, drawbacks. Okay, and here we need to write the first sentence, which is called a thesis statement. Thesis statement basically means it's a topic sentence. All right, let's just paraphrase it. Let's just write like a topic sentence. Okay. So the idea is it's the main idea of the whole paragraph. Okay, and here, so the question is, look at this carefully. Does this development have more advantages or more disadvantages? Okay, so the examiner wants us to focus on at least 2 advantages and 2 disadvantages. So it's very important to focus on both. And I'm going to demonstrate this in the first sentence. So how can we do it? It would be erroneous to deny that payments through mobile phone apps may result in. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the first drawback and then the second drawback. So the first one would be in electronic theft and a lack of social interactions. Okay, electronic theft, that would be drawback 2, drawback 1, and a lack of social interactions would be drawback number 2. Okay, that's it. So it would be erroneous. Erroneous in this case means mistaken. Okay, it would be wrong to deny that. It's a very good phrase to say that you are going to say that something is true. So payments through mobile phone apps may result in the first problem and the second problem. Okay, so electronic theft and then a lack of social interactions. Okay, what's the next step? The next step is we need to provide at least one example in order to prove our point of view. Okay, so how can we do it? Let's just look at it carefully. For example, some users may have large amounts of money stolen when providing the details of a Visa or MasterCard. Okay, here we go. So before I said electronic theft, okay, when you steal something electronically, which means online. And here, for example, some users may have large amounts of money stolen. So theft and stolen. Okay, the expression have something done means that somebody will steal this money, not you. Okay, so when plus ing, when providing the details of a Visa or MasterCard. Now we want to use the indefinite article here. Why? Because we're talking about one card and you don't want to write a Visa or a MasterCard. Just use only once. Okay, next, instead of writing much money, it's better to write large amounts of money. Okay, next, so here we've written one example. What's the next step? The next step is to talk about the negative result of this action. Something like hackers tend to use this vital information in order to access and steal the money shared by online shoppers. That's it. Okay, now hackers tend to use, in this case tend to means usually, okay, not all the time, but usually use this vital information. What kind of information? Okay, the details of a Visa or MasterCard. What am I doing here? I'm referring back to the previous statement, okay, this vital information, and it's called referencing, and that's exactly what the examiner is looking for in your essay. Next, in order to access and steal the money shared by online shoppers. Now, the money, because we know what kind of money we're talking about. Not just any money, but the specific money. So the money shared. In this case, the money shared means the money which is shared by whom? Online shoppers. Okay? So that's it. We have explained this part. Okay, next. Now we need to talk about the second drawback. Okay, detailed information in detail. So what's the second piece of information here? A lack of social interactions. So let's just talk about this in detail. Okay. All right, so a lack of social interactions. Now, what can we write here? Something like, apart from this, those who are used to purchasing products online may feel that they are lonely, as they have not been to supermarkets for a long time, where they could have had the opportunity not only to buy groceries, but also to communicate with their friends and neighbors. That's it. It's a very long and beautiful sentence. Now, let's just look at this very carefully. Apart from this, which basically means in addition to this, okay, what this? We have already provided the first, we have already provided some information about the first drawback, okay, and now we're talking about the second one. So we are trying to make a link between the first part of our paragraph and the second part of our paragraph. Okay, those who are used to purchasing, I'm using a complex grammar here, who are used to plus ing, purchasing products online, may feel that they are lonely, as, which means because they haven't been supermarkets for a long time. So when you use the phrase for a long time, make sure to use the present perfect. Haven't been to supermarkets for a long time. Here, where they could have had. They could have had the opportunity, but they didn't have this opportunity. So I'm using a very complex grammar here. In this case, the opportunity, I know what kind of opportunity we're talking about. And next, not only, but also. Not only to buy groceries, but also to communicate with their friends and neighbors. Okay? So, we're talking about lonely and being lonely, and we're talking about not communicating with their friends and neighbors. We're talking about the same thing. And now if you look at our first sentence, which is topic sentence, here a lack of social interactions. So we have already described and analyzed the drawbacks of this trend. Now let's just look at our question again. Does this development have more advantages or more disadvantages? Okay, so we have already analyzed the disadvantages. Now let's focus on the advantages of this trend. Okay, now how can we do it? So now we need to focus on the second body paragraph, and let's just write, let's say, topic sentence. Okay, topic sentence, and here I'm going to write about some benefits. Okay, so how can we do it? Now, first of all, I need to make a link between this paragraph with the previous paragraph. I can write something like however, which means but. The tangible benefits of electronic payments should not be overlooked. That's it. It's a very nice and beautiful topic sentence. The tangible means real benefits, okay? True benefits, something that you can really feel, something that you can really experience, okay? So tangible. Of electronic payments should not be overlooked. Overlook means ignore, not to pay attention, okay? So the idea is we must really pay close attention to this. So benefits, and here the tangible benefits, okay? Next, here in the next sentence, we need to focus on the first benefit. Okay, now let's get back to our question quickly here. It says, does this development have more advantages? Okay, so we need to provide at least 2 advantages. So let's just focus on the first benefit very quickly. Firstly, one has the potential to save a great amount of time by purchasing items electronically. Okay, so remember, you need to write only firstly. You don't want to write first of all, not first off, okay, and not at first. Use the word firstly. Why? Because it's highly academic. That's exactly what the examiner is looking for. Next, one means person, okay, a person. You don't want to write I. You don't want to write I. You don't want to write you, okay? Use the word one. So one. Next, has the potential to. To have the potential to basically means can. One can. Okay, but this phrase sounds much better for the examiner. So one has the potential to save a great amount of time. Okay, instead of writing much time, you want to write a great amount of time by doing what? By purchasing items, which means things, electronically. Now, you don't want to write things, okay? The examiner doesn't like the word things. A lot of international students always write the word things. No, use the word items. How? Electronically, okay? So that's it. So this is our first benefit, okay? Now, what's the next step? So the next step is, now we need to focus on one specific problem in one particular city, and then we can say that using this strategy, this problem can be solved. Okay, so how can we do it? Let me show you an example. Okay, for example, those who go shopping in such major cities as London and New York, London and New York tend to experience traffic congestion, which makes shopping a time-consuming process. Okay, so now we're talking about one problem. So for example, those who go shopping in such major, in this case major means large, big. You don't want to write big or large, use the word major. So major cities, major advantages, major problems, okay? As London and New York tend to, which means usually, experience traffic congestion, which, okay, in this case, traffic congestion basically means traffic jams. But remember, you don't want to use the word traffic jams because this word is a colloquial phrase, okay? It's more like, it's not for academic writing. You want to write traffic congestion, which makes shopping a time-consuming process. The expression a time-consuming process means that it takes a lot of time to do it, okay? Now, here I've used a comma. Why? Because I'm providing extra information, okay? This information is not important. This information is extra. So when you want to give some extra information, you want to use a comma in your sentence. Now, in my next sentence, I'm going to find a very quick solution, and I'm going to use the first benefit, which I have already mentioned before. Now, how can I do it? I can use the word however. If they were to use mobile phone apps, they would be able to avoid such a problem. As no transport is required when buying goods online. That's it. Now, however means but. Remember, you don't want to use the word but at the beginning of a sentence, okay? You must use only however. If they were to use, so here I'm using the second conditional. So the idea is they are not using it now, but if they were to use, they would do something, okay? We're talking about a hypothetical situation. This situation doesn't exist. It exists only in our mind. We're trying to imagine the situation, okay? Therefore, I'm using the second conditional here, and the examiner really likes those candidates that use the second conditional or the third conditional. Next, to avoid such a problem, we know what kind of problem we're talking about, so I'm referring back to the previous statement. As means because. No transport is required. I'm using the passive voice here when buying goods online. So I have already explained why the first benefit really works. Okay? Next. Now, what's the next step? The next step is to talk about the second benefit. Okay? Why the second benefit? Now let's just look at our topic sentence. However, the tangible benefits, okay, of electronic payments should not be overlooked. Benefits. So we're talking about 2 benefits. So let's just do it. Benefit number 2. So furthermore, the police can keep track of those delinquents who have entered personal data and Visa card details when paying for commodities electronically. And this has the potential to reduce the crime rate nationwide. Okay, now here we go. Let's just look at this one. Furthermore, okay, we need to use furthermore when we want to add one more point. Okay, the police, remember, the police, always use the. Can keep track of means follow. Okay, watch, understand where they are located. Those delinquents, which means criminals, who have entered, I'm using the present perfect here, plus who, not which, because we're talking about people. So who have entered personal data and Visa card details when paying for commodities, which means goods, items, electronically, and this. And this means, and this whole system and this whole strategy has the potential, which means can reduce the crime rate nationwide. Remember, in this case, rate means level. You must always use the. So the crime rate, the birth rate, the death rate. Nationwide means around the country. Okay, so basically I have explained the first benefit, and here we also have one more benefit. So I have basically analyzed 3 benefits in this body paragraph. Okay, that's it. So now it's time to write the last paragraph, which is called conclusion. And here, okay, we need to write the thesis restatement. Okay, the idea is I need to highlight my point of view once again to the examiner. Okay, so I need to say what I believe. Okay, so now how can we do it? Based on the analysis of both sides of the argument, I feel that the advantages of obtaining goods by means of mobile phone apps far outweigh the drawbacks outlined above. Okay, here we go. So based on the analysis, so here we have of, and therefore the analysis of both sides of the argument. We know what kind of argument we're talking about, and therefore we need to use the definite article the. I feel that, which means I believe that the advantages of obtaining goods, obtaining here means getting, by means of mobile phone apps outweigh. So let's just look at our essay prompt. Again, here it says, does this development have more advantages or more disadvantages? And therefore, in the last paragraph, in our conclusion paragraph, I wrote, I feel that the advantages of obtaining goods by means of mobile phone apps here far outweigh the drawbacks. Far outweigh the drawbacks outlined above. Okay, outlined means basically described above. Again, I'm referring back to the previous paragraph. Okay, good. Now, the examiner might say, hold on. Just a second. So here he needs to write, neutralize. Okay, so the examiner might say, hold on, Neil. But you have described some problems before. You have described several drawbacks in the first paragraph. How about this? Okay, so in order to make our examiner happy, we can come up with two very quick solutions to the problems that we have analyzed before. Okay, why? Because we need to neutralize these problems. Okay, so to neutralize the drawbacks or to neutralize the problems, okay, outlined above. Now, how can we do it? Let me show you. In order to mitigate the issues related to this trend, one could install the entire virus application Dr. Web to prevent theft from occurring and join social and sports clubs to expand networks with the wider community. Okay, here we go. So in order to mitigate means if a problem is very big, if you want to make this problem smaller, okay, it will not disappear, but it will be a smaller problem in order to mitigate. So basically, which means it means like to decrease like as I said, to reduce the degree of this problem. Okay, so in order to mitigate the issues, which means the problems related to this trend, one means a person could, not can, but could, okay, I'm trying to be more polite, install the antivirus application Dr. Web. So here we need to use the, because we know what kind of application we're talking about. There's only one application Dr. Web, and therefore we need to use the. Why? To prevent theft from occurring, because we mentioned theft in our first body paragraph. Okay, occurring means happening, and join social and sports clubs to expand networks with the wider community. Before we mentioned one more problem. Okay, so here we just said a lack of social interactions, and we found the solution in electronic theft. We have found a great solution, and that's exactly what you can do in your last paragraph. You don't want to explain anything too much, just very quick two solutions to solve the problems that you have outlined above. Thank you very much for listening and analyzing this video lesson. I hope you will prepare for your IELTS exam and you will pass it. Good luck.